your afternoon dose of entertainment. Jane Carroll on 1360 KUIK, West Side Talk Radio.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Jane Carroll Show. I'm Aaron Stevens. We have joining the show right now a special guest. We have John Charles with us, President and CEO of Cascade Policy Institute. Can you hear me?
I can.
How are we doing, sir?
Been very well.
It's been a little while since I've had an opportunity to interview you. I love all the work you guys do there at Cascade Policy, and I'm interested in knowing what you guys are working on now after the holiday break, and kind of, a lot of people kind of, they drift away during the summer and not paying a lot of attention to what's going on, but you guys keep standing on the gas and doing the hard work. What is it that you guys have been working on?
Well, we work on a lot of different topics, but I thought today I'd just bring up the fact that tomorrow, the Portland City Council will be adopting one of these mammoth, multi-hundred, if not multi-thousand-page plans called the 2035 plan that attempts to tell people how to live. And in one of their performance measures, they expect that by 2035 in the central city, only 15% of people will drive by themselves to work, and 85% will take some other form of travel. And they've been making these sort of utopian forecasts of how people are going to change for decades. And I just sort of point this out because every year the city auditor does a survey of the population in Portland, and they've done this for over 20 years. And so they have a baseline of information, and one of the things they ask every year is, well, how do you get to work? And it turns out that back in 1999, transit use was 22% of how people got to work for people who were actually in the downtown area. But by 2016, it had dropped to 15%. And single occupant driving was 48% back in the day, and it's now up to 49% in 2016 for people who are in the heart of downtown Portland. So why would you go from there and assume that we're going to drop driving down to 15%?
And of course, and in that time frame, they've expanded the max into, I think, 2 or 3 additional areas, but they've also built that downtown trolley. Okay, right. in that same time frame, and I can't even calculate. This is for you guys because you're good at this. The billions of dollars that they've spent in trying to promote that, and you clearly illustrate. I mean, so the population has gone up because they're now building those sky-rise towers, like all down there, down from the hospital and stuff. I mean, all those towers were not there in 1999 on the waterfront. Okay, so I don't know how many thousands of people live down there now. So if you're telling me the population down there has gone up, which I'm certain that it has, and then the use has gone down from say 22 to 15%. I know that it's just 7%, but no, that's not. If you use that's like 40%, if you look at the numbers the way that you ought to. So people just don't want to ride their choo-choo trains. They don't like them. There's crime on them. They don't come at the right times. They don't work when it's hot. They don't work when it's cold. Nobody wants to wait in the rain, and they just don't like them, or they like their car for whatever reason, and it's America, and you should be able to have one. And this is in conjunction with the fact that they've made parking ridiculous, and people still don't want to use their choo-choo train.
Right. They've tried to make driving as miserable as possible. They've raised parking rates and then used the money to pay off debt on the streetcar instead of improving the roads. Mm-hmm. They spent $3.5 billion on the light rail system. Down on the South Waterfront, I think by 2028, all surface parking has to be gone. And they keep thinking that if you punish motorists enough, if you subsidize transit enough, people will give up their preference for private, personal motorized transport. And the numbers show over a 20-year period that's not happening. And they continue to fantasize and actually adopt big, expensive plans on the premise that we'll have this new Soviet man who will emerge who will be good enough for their system. No, it hasn't happened. It isn't happening, and it's not going to happen.
So 2035, so that's what we look at, 18 years in the future. So if we went back in time 18 years is what, 1999, right? Is that how you came up with that number? So, I mean, 1999 is not very long ago,
Right.
And, I mean, you just look at cars and these are these pie in the sky ideas. Sometimes you'll read a magazine and say, hey, this is what they thought in 1940. And you read the Popular, or Popular Science, say, magazine of 1942. And they're talking about people driving around in an atom car or this and that. We still don't have flying cars because there's a reason why. It'd be people flying around their cars are going to hit buildings. It's not safe for everybody to be a pilot. Okay, this just it's not a safe thing. As I'm sitting here at the Hillsborough Airport, the same thing that it's ridiculous to think in 20 years that, say, computers are going to drive all these cars and everybody's going to be in some kind of a weird Tesla van or something, or that the choo-choo train's going to work, or that people are all of a sudden going to all use Uber, or whatever it is, and that's pie in the sky. It's difficult to predict things like, say, the internet. That is kind of a big thing. But this idea that we're all going to use MAX trains, where in the world could you possibly come up with that idea other than some kind of internal messed up think tank who's accepting checks from somebody?
Well, they've already made the decision that they're not going to expand the highway system. They're not going to expand the road system substantially. They're going to put vast amounts of money into bikeways and walkways and streetcar and light rail. So in order to make computer projections that make sense, they just tweak the assumptions. So they just say, well, we're assuming certain things to be true, and they act as if it is true. Actually, they did the same thing more recently when they were going to tear down the Sellwood Bridge, build a new one, and they were going to double the width of the bridge,
right,
but not improve any auto access. And they just assumed that transit service would go up and transit use would go up. Well, in fact, I've been out there monitoring, and bike and ped use has barely gone up, and the actual transit service is far lower today than it was 15 years ago. There is no daytime service. There's only peak hour service on weekdays and no weekend service. TriMet basically abandoned the Sellwood Bridge, even though it was built to carry heavy vehicles, and we were promised an increase in transit service. The promise was broken, and so congestion is worse today than it was 5 years ago.
It's so funny you said Sellwood Bridge, because I was going to bring up that exact point, because the bridge is twice as big, and I've tried to drive across that thing recently. Which, by the way, we need that pathway. Oftentimes, downtown is completely snarled, and you need to be able to get over there to Milwaukee, and it's a good way to go if you look on a map. I mean, it gets you over there if you can actually do it. But you're in line for a long time, and so when I waited forever in line, and I finally get across, and it's one way going each way, and the bicycle path is there, but of course the footpath is. I mean, you could have 10,000 people walking across that bridge. There's so much, room. And I when I went across it, I counted 2 people walking across that bridge. I did not see one bicycle. And what I saw was 1,000 cars attempting to try to do it. And it's silliness.
Right. I mean, I've been reading the planning documents from 1999 forward on the Sellwood Bridge and what they assumed to be true in the future. And they just glossed over what they were going to do. And so what you have now is you have a new light at either end of the bridge, and that those stoplights meter the traffic. And the speed limit has been lowered. The capacity is the same. Demand has gone up. And so you have a few more pedestrians and a few more bicyclists than you had 6 years ago under the old bridge. And the auto throughput is permanently reduced. The number of vehicles you can get across the bridge will be permanently lower than it was under the 1925
what
bridge.
Cost? But in what dollar amount? I don't know.
In real terms, the original bridge was built for about $450,000. So after you adjust for inflation, I think the new bridge is 43 times more expensive. It's twice as wide, and has less throughput, does less work than the previous bridge.
Yeah, so this is when I went to high school in Portland. I went to Cleveland High School. It's about it's at 26th and Powell, and I remember And I remember that they originally thought that, back in the 70s, they projected there'd be 70,000 students and stuff in Portland when they're getting like 35,000. These think tanks that try to go ahead, and we should kind of project where we need to have freeways and stuff. That's just smart planning, and that makes sense. But these guys have been wrong on how many people are going to be where, that there's not going to be people in, say, Tigard or Sherwood or where people are going to want to move to. And they're wrong on traffic. They're wrong on the amount of students that we're going to have in Portland at public schools. I don't know anything they've ever been right about.
Well, one thing about predicting the future is it's fun to predict it, because at the time you make the prediction, nobody can prove that you're wrong. And by the time you can be proven right or wrong, and people can look back in time to compare forecasts with the actual evidence, the people who made those decisions are long gone.
Yeah.
They're probably sitting on a beach somewhere collecting a really nice PERS check.
Yeah.
And it all worked out for them. It just didn't work out for the rest of us.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Excellent point. So, hey, before I let you go, I want to make sure that our listeners know a little bit more about Cascade Policy Institute and how they can help out, because I think this is important work that you guys do. Because we're just trying to go about our daily lives or mow the lawn or whatever, and then all of a sudden we have to come to grips with this information. I'm a news hound, and I did not know this data. This data that I'm reading today is great, and I like to use it. I'll use it during the show, but I think most folks don't know about this stuff, and they need to come visit you guys to figure it out. How can they help out?
Cascade Policy Institute is Oregon's free market think tank, or as I think of it, we're just in favor of common sense. And we don't take any government money. We're supported by hundreds of individuals. Our website is cascadepolicy.org. We have plenty of papers and studies and data on our website. And if people would like to go and download it or make a contribution or check it out, we would love to have them engaged in our work.
Great. All great stuff. Thank you so much for joining the show today, John.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, that was John Charles of the Cascade Policy Institute. Always excellent stuff. I really do love those guys, so I encourage you to go to cascadepolicy.org, help those guys out. In the upper right-hand corner is a place to donate and keep the good work going. All right, this is Aaron Stevens in for Jane Carroll, 1360 KUIK, West Side Talk Radio.